Hello out there, sports fans. Welcome to our podcast today. This is Coach EJ, the brand.
And Coach Aaron, the source.
Aaron, what's happening today, man?
Oh,
What's
nothing. I woke up with these allergies. They're killing me. It's like, I've been waiting for the sun to come out, and now it has, and now I'm dying.
Man, it's too cold still in the morning, man. I guess being out in California as long as we have growing up all our lives and being California people, we are used to the heat, and especially you SoCal guy, I mean,
Exactly.
and you get up here, in the Bay Area, man, I'm freezing in the morning right now.
Anything under 70 is cold to me.
That's
so,
the truth.
so yeah,
Yeah, man.
feeling like I'm in Alaska or something right now. All this frost in the morning and everything, but that's why I got a beanie on in the house.
I don't blame you, man. I'm layered up about four thick these days, man, when I leave the house. So I get that.
Yeah. So today, what are we going for this morning? I think what we're going to talk about is something, I guess it's more on the coach's side, something that we discuss a lot. And it's probably something that parents don't necessarily think too much about, but it's actually important. And that's basically, how looking at how does your athlete learn? Okay. And what do you mean by that is if you can give the coaches or your trainers an understanding of how your athlete might learn, especially if there's some barriers,
Mhm.
then it allows us to be a lot more successful. And my mantra is always, training is a transfer of information. Okay. And anything that hinders or blocks that isn't going to be productive for the athlete. So I think it's important that when a coach is introduced to an athlete, especially if they've got some challenges, that's articulated. It's not anything to be embarrassed about. It's not anything, that you should hide, because you want the athlete to get the most out of their experience with the coach. And some of the things that the negative things that can come from that is, your kid can kind of get mislabeled, you know, if a kid has some kind of learning, challenge or something, and the coach doesn't know it, well, it can be easy for a coach to say, oh, well, that kid is hard-headed, or that kid doesn't listen, or that kid's not engaged. And so now your kid is basically, I don't not say characterized as something that he's not. So I think this is important. I know it's important for me, and it's something that I appreciate when parents are upfront about something, whether it's ADHD or again some other sort of thing, because I say, okay, now I know how I'm going to engage this athlete.
Right.
That's all. It's that simple. Okay, now I know what I need to do to properly engage this athlete. What are your thoughts, CJ?
I'm glad we're talking about this today, Aaron, because it's something that I come across frequently with all the athletes in our company. And when a parent comes up and explains to me, kid may have a learning disability, or they may be able to take in the information this way. This is the best way to talk to them, or demonstrate to them, so you can get your point across to help them. I think it's encouraging, and like you said earlier, don't feel embarrassed by it, parents. I think it's important that you tell your coach or your trainer um, what's happening so you can help that athlete. It's to help we're in this to help kids. At the end of the day, we're helping athletes get better, whether it's a young athlete or older athlete. And I think it's important that you tell the coach, the trainer, what's going on, because the transfer of information, as Aaron says, is really important in what we do. And if you keep on transferring this information, the player doesn't understand it, the coach starts to say, this guy really is blowing me off, or they don't really care. I mean, there could be so many things that go through a trainer and coach's mind, Aaron,
Right.
when that happens, man. I mean, and then you find out about it. Here's a sad thing. Here's a sad case, Aaron. You find out about this a year later or 2 years later, and you're like spinning your wheels, thinking what's going on. So, that's kind of my 2 cents on it, Aaron. I think it's kind of important that this information gets to the trainers or the coaches in any capacity.
Right. No, I agree. Like I said, I get kids from all different walks and different ages and different sports. And, I want to be as effective as possible. And I want the relationship between me and the kid to be a good one. And, I'm no saint, and it's easy for me to get frustrated if I have to tell a kid over and over again the same thing.
Right.
And maybe there's a good reason for that. Maybe, they have an auditory processing issue, or maybe there's an attention deficit order issue or something, something of that nature. Then once I know, I can devise a workaround. And sometimes it's as simple as having an athlete repeat something back to me after I've said it.
Right.
Sometimes it's, last night I had to take an athlete, as a younger athlete, and I had to say, every time words are coming out of my mouth, you can't move.
Oh, gotcha.
Because some kids will want to demonstrate while you're trying to tell them what to do. And, so there's different strategies that we can use. There's some kids I say, I make them write everything down. So now they've got a template to follow during the workout, as well as, the things that I'm giving them. So now they've got something visual to go back to if they didn't get what I said the first time. But if they're taking those notes immediately, boom, now they can remember. And so there's all different ways to structure training to help an athlete. It's not just as simple as me yelling instructions out to the athlete and then hoping they catch them. Because athletes nowadays, they want to do a lot of things. Athletes will want to come in and they want to have their headphones on, and maybe they don't like my taste in music, but
Right. I mean, yeah, I like
it. So that's fine. I let them multitask as long as they can take care of the things that I present before them. Okay, so sometimes that obstacle is just how they happen to operate, and getting them to organize themselves so that they can multitask in your environment. Because a lot of them might be used to, hey, working on the computer, having their headphones in, doing the TV on, and that's okay for them at home. And they want to try and bring that same process into the gym. And it's like, well, hold it. That process may not work here, but this is how we can accommodate that. And sometimes it's just, hey, you know what? Turn it all off, because you can't focus. You might think you can, but you can't focus with more than one thing. And we all like that.
Yeah.
We all have the nature to want to multitask. So, again, identifying those things is important. And if you can tell us on the onset, then I think we get off to a better start. And there's this we don't get to this point where there's a crescendo of frustration on both parties, and then all of a sudden it comes out, or you decide to walk away. Oh, that coach sucks, or that kid has a problem.
Yeah, it's funny, as I coach into my later years, and I watch the youth. It's fun. And I love coaching these younger guys, like 13, 7th graders. I do that because I get to see what the next generation's coming. And if they're in our company for 6 years, I get to see those young people become, young men, And I think the important thing I see is, I was just thinking about this, Aaron, is the way kids learn these days, like the things you just mentioned. I actually want to do a study for about 2 weeks and have the players put their cell phones in their pockets. As I'm going through practice and things that we need to get better at, I want them to take notes on because they forget stuff, man. It's kind of like what you have in the gym where you say, hey guys, write this stuff down if you have your booklet, or you have it on your cell phone, put it in as you do your workout so you can remember.
Exactly.
Well, I'm thinking, and I thought about this when you were talking. I want to do a 2-week experiment where the kids have their cell phones in their pocket during practice. And the things that we say we want them to go over or the corrections, I want them to take it down their notes, go home, study it. So, and see if there's any type of learning going on, or the ability to grasp the concepts that we're teaching in practice, which could be an individual standpoint, doing a certain drill that they need to work on, or a team defense or offensive drill that we're doing. So I'm thinking, I want to do this for 2 weeks. And see how our group learns. Do they start to get better at the concepts? And the phone gives them some sort of comfort level to where, okay, I've got it in my phone, I got my notes, because some kids think that it's a comfort thing with them. I gotta write that down. I gotta write that down, and I'd like to see what happens, Aaron. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm always trying to improve the way I do things with athletes to try to figure out, how can they get better? How do they learn? And will they grasp these concepts or this information we're trying to transfer to them?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I do it so that, again, these kids, one, it's a way of taking ownership in their training. It's their responsibility to write this stuff down so that they can remember it, so that I'm not getting, the 100, with 30 kids or something coming through the gym, 100, what do I do next? What do I do next? What do I do next? Or, hey, how many of those did you say for me to do? So there's certain questions that need to be answered, and there's certain questions that don't need to be answered.
Right.
And so I think when an athlete starts to take ownership in it, and they're responsible for those, and there's some questions I won't answer because they should have them written down, then, that keeps them on task. So if an athlete's been doing a training program for, say, 5-6 sessions,
okay,
he shouldn't come up to me and say, well, how many reps do I have of this again? It's not a question I'm going to answer, because we've been through this 5-6 times. It should be written down. You should have been vested in this process to either memorize it or write it down.
Man, that's, I agree with that, Aaron, because, I got guys that come to practice and ask me questions, and I just look at them and see if I want the kids to think on their own. I think that's the biggest thing that I see in this, is that once we understand how they learn and how they take in the information, there is ownership, like you said, where the kids, we want them to answer the questions. And I think that's lost these days, is that we don't need to give them every answer. We want them to be critical thinkers.
Right.
Because in athletics, you have to think and adjust quickly. And I think when we give them all the answers, there is no feel for what's going on in a circumstance. Like, let me go to coach and ask him this. Well, the game's going on. Well, you're going to call timeout and go, hey, Coach Aaron, what do I do here? You don't have time to do that. Athletics is a reactionary response to a situation. Okay. And I don't think, I like to see our athletes, just think on themselves a little bit, whether it's wrong or right. I don't really care. I want the ownership where they're responsible for what they're doing.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'll be interested to see the results of your study, your informal study.
Next week, man. Next week, we're going to start it, man. Next week.
Because I think for track and field athletes, at least how I came up, this is kind of old hat. You always kind of just kept a diary. And I think it's just, with the way technology is, it's just easy now. I wouldn't be surprised if the kids could probably just talk their notes into their phone. They've already got the earpiece in their ear and say, with the whole speech to text thing, say, hey, note, keep my left arm up when I'm doing X. And
why not?
And use the technology to their advantage now. I just think it's a way to help keep the athlete re-centered or directed in the right way without the coach always having to be in their ear. And
Right.
it's real easy for them to go back and look, okay, this is my workout. Oh, these are the key points of my workout. Oh, when I do this exercise, I need to do this. Just a quick glance at that right before they start their workout, I think it helps. For those who are engaged in what they're doing, it's gonna, again, click. And again, a lot of this stuff is mental. So if you're going through the process mentally, then it's going to make it easier for the body to follow. So you're already getting the correction before you have to get the correction. So, anyway,
okay.
Couple thoughts on that subject. Don't have anything else to add, but
hey, pretty good, man. I mean, actually, hey, let us know. We're all coaches. Let us know how your athletes learn and how they listen. I think it's valuable. Aaron, with that said, man, that kind of wraps up our podcast today. This is Coach Eric Johnson, the brand.
Coach Aaron Thigpen, the source. We'll see you.